Mid-a ceasefire deal, joined right now by NBC's Alice Barr from Washington. Alice, always good to have you on. So obviously lots of celebrating that even included some support, though, from some of President Trump's predecessors from the other side of the aisle. What are you learning this morning?
Good morning. Yeah, we've heard from statements from President Biden, from former President Clinton, from former President Obama, also from the top Democrat in the Senate, Chuck Schumer, all praising this deal, offering their credit to President Trump, especially Chuck Schumer. There's been a lot of contention just recently because those are two of the main parties trying to get through this government shutdown. So, you know, credit given where credit is due is certainly the theme from Democrats who typically are pretty oppositional to President Trump, to take former President Biden, who of course was involved in trying to bring an end to this terrible war that's been ongoing for 2 years in Gaza and began while President Biden was in office. He wrote that he is deeply grateful and relieved that this day has come, adding that the road to this deal was not easy and that he commends President Trump and his team for getting this over the finish line.
And Alice, we saw a lot of the video, a lot of those reunions, a lot of the hostages being freed, but of course the big thing still out there is the return of the remains of the deceased hostages, which needs to still happen. How does that process all play out?
Yeah, so at this stage, only 4 out of 28 of the remains of deceased hostages believed to be held by Hamas were returned yesterday. And there are some very serious questions about what that could mean for this peace deal going forward, because that was a stipulation of phase 1, which both sides, Israel and Hamas, had both agreed to. There are some questions about whether Hamas actually knows where all of these remains are, and President Trump has said that there may be teams going in from Israel if Hamas is not able to deliver the remains as promised. Again, it's just not exactly clear what that means, that piece of the puzzle has not yet been held up by Hamas, and whether that could derail the next stages of it, or if there's sort of evidence that there's a good faith effort underway to try to return the remains, whether that keeps things on track. But it's certainly extraordinarily important to the families that have been waiting for closure, at least to bring their loved ones home.
Absolutely, a big part of the process. We know, Alice, yesterday President Trump certainly touted his progress in brokering this deal, and this is really a part of his 20-point peace plan. So looking forward, how much more work still needs to be done?
A lot. So yeah, this is phase 1 that was agreed to by Israel and Hamas. And, you know, there was this signing ceremony in Egypt yesterday as part of the peace summit that President Trump and some 20 other heads of state joined in. But important to note that Israel and Hamas were not actually there to sign. And so, you know, things are still a little bit tenuous. It was more the mediators all signaling their backing for this plan going forward. And what remains to be seen is the really critical step of having Hamas agree to lay down its arms, to disarm. How does that even happen? To whom are they supposed to hand them over is not entirely clear. And then they're leaving power. And then who steps in, of course, to that vacuum to then lead Gaza through its very turbulent next stages. There's the thought of having an international board of peace that would be at least a temporary role, while President Trump says the Palestinian Authority needs to be reformed. But these are broad concepts that need to be really hammered out to determine a safe future and rebuilding, of course, of just war-ravaged Gaza.
Absolutely. Alice Barr, we always appreciate you joining us here on The Take. Thank you so much.